so this came out from Josina Anderson a little bit earlier today. She says, I'm told there have been recent interest expressed in at least speaking with Bill Belichick on an exploratory basis from two teams, and she's quoting a league source. Her understanding is Belichick has upper-level personnel who still like him in Atlanta, New York, and Cleveland, all teams struggling with customary evaluations this time of the year. She is also told that up to 7 more teams are monitoring potential changes at head coach, 3 or 4 considering general manager moves at this time. Dolphins have already moved on from their GM. So I guess the question becomes, that Dalton, I'm curious, your thoughts on Bill Belichick returning to Cleveland or anywhere in the NFL. It didn't end well in New England.
Yeah, it certainly didn't. And it didn't end well in part because of Bill Belichick, the GM, and a run of just not great drafts and not developing young players properly. And that's how they ended up taking that downturn after Tom Brady left for Tampa. But no, I think it's very interesting if you're talking about Cleveland getting into this conversation. And it makes me wonder in general, not just Belichick, but maybe some other guys like a Mike McCarthy or a Brian Flores from Minnesota, who, if the Browns are looking for an experienced head coaching candidate as opposed to somebody new, a new coordinator or somebody like that, looking for an established leader of a franchise, similar to how New England went out and got Mike Vrabel, obviously former Tennessee Titans head coach. So I wonder if it tells us more they're going towards that route. But Belichick really wasn't a great season at North Carolina for him. It was a big adjustment to the college game, and I'd be curious to see how quickly he'd be willing to jump back into the NFL game.
When you look at it, a name that Browns fans keep throwing out is John Gruden. I'm not. And Gruden's younger than I thought. He's only 62, 63. I thought he was older than that. Is Gruden somebody you could see coming back? And I think what you're looking for is a guy who's done it, a guy who's had success, and a guy who can kind of give structure. With Paul DePodesta not there, it's kind of a blank canvas relative to how you structure the and this is, again, assuming you move on from Andrew Berry and Kevin Stefanski, blank canvas with your front office.
Yeah, I mean, Gruden is a guy. I don't think it's a very high likelihood that he's going to be back in the NFL or with the Browns specifically. He was linked to a handful of college jobs, even that he was kind of fishing around for a head coaching job and didn't wind up getting any. So I don't think that's a very likely candidate, especially with some of the baggage that it comes with from his previous tenure out there with the Raiders. But certainly, I think the Browns are going to look towards every corner of the football world to find a leader for this franchise, because that's really been the problem, is leadership lately, right? When you talk about the front office, the head coach, the quarterback, everything from on the field to off it, they really need to find a leadership structure that works for them in this team.
Is there somebody that you think makes sense to be a head coach of a team that's trying to develop a quarterback? That bottom line is whomever the next head coach is, be it Shedeur Sanders, be it draft pick this year or next, they're going to have to find a quarterback. Who makes sense to you that's out there? And it's not a really strong class this year.
That's not a strong class. And I think the other problem is if you're looking at, poaching another team's offensive coordinator and you think that guy can build a great offense, well, honestly, if you're going to go that route, you might as well keep Kevin Stefanski, right? He's still a very good offensive coach. He's dealt with really bad personnel for the last 2 years. And I don't know that you're going to get a better developer of an offense and a quarterback than Stefanski elsewhere. I think if they do get rid of Stefanski and they go external for a new head coach, I think it's going to be somebody with prior experience. And that may not be on the offensive side of the ball, because a lot of the offensive candidates, say Ben Johnson or a Liam Cohen, they got hired last offseason. So, I think if you're going to go that route and you're just going to say, we need an offensive coach, we need somebody who's going to develop a quarterback and know how to build this offense, you might as well keep Stefanski at that point.
Is there a veteran that you could see moving on, getting let go, that would make sense here? And you've heard Andy Reid. I can't for the life of me seeing that happen. You've heard some rumblings with John Harbaugh, Mike Tom. Is there somebody that's a current head coach in the NFL that you think would make sense if he's let go, that could potentially be let go?
John Harbaugh would bring that level of leadership. I'm just not sure that he would switch teams right away inside the division, right? I do wonder what if, how, depending on how the Buffalo Bills finish, if a Sean McDermott might come available. I know he signed a big extension, but if they underwhelm, especially in a year when the Chiefs are not in the postseason, the Bills are really going to have high expectations going into it. But maybe it's a guy who was actually just recently fired, and Brian Dable from the New York Giants. Maybe that's an option, but it's really hard to tell at this point which sitting head coaches, especially ones that are on good teams, are going to be kind of on the hot seat going into the next month or so.